But is there
Hmm.
something that you realize is not as glamorous or something that you don't like as much about PM?
You don't know that how the customer might behave.
What does a normal week look like for you as a senior product manager at Swiggy?
Our work is like distributed like in mainly three or four parts.
Yeah, I think prioritization becomes a big part of because Swiggy being a super app.
Bring the journey of the customer, that is like at the supreme most priority.
What do you think stands out so much at Swiggy that they consistently get the best talent?
What we need to understand, like very small things which are happening around us.
What's a Swiggy product philosophy on AI right now? Welcome, Arpit. Thank you so much for doing this. So lovely to have you here, and it's amazing. And I think it's going to be really insightful for everyone who's going to be watching this. So to help
Yeah.
everyone understand, Arpit is a distinguished product manager. He's going to tell a little bit about himself, and help us all know what his role is like, and what does he own at Swiggy. So yes, Arpit, go ahead.
Sure. Hi, Mane. Thanks for having me on your podcast. So I'm working with Swiggy currently in Bangalore. Like I'm working as a senior product manager over here. So I handle like the ads vertical and the food cart vertical at Swiggy. So,
Nice.
a typical overall like functions which I look on to is like there are first party ads which are on Swiggy, there are third party ads which are on Swiggy. So from the product aspect, like what are the challenges which Swiggy faces while like running ads on the restaurant, like restaurant invest money on Swiggy, like to get listed on the featured listing and everything. So that piece from the restaurant side and from the consumer side. So from the product aspect, I take care of, and on the cart page when you come and see like all the widgets which come like loyalty program, the promised SLA, which is and which your order will be delivered, your cart and your pricing and all those things. So like there are multiple services which like pull in the data over there, so that's majorly which I look forward to in Sweden mainly.
Nice. That's actually very interesting. So, what you're saying is how it's structured is that the ads vertical, be it whatever we see on the checkout page or whatever the restaurants pay to kind of list themselves up, the order is taken care by the same product team essentially.
Yes, yes. So it's under the same ads vertical. So we call it like first party and third party ads. So it's come under the
Acha,
same vertical.
got it. Got it. Nice, nice. And this is the role you started with, or this is how it has evolved into that role now?
So it just started with like I have joined like Swiggy recently, like about six
Mhm.
months back only.
Correct.
So it's been like started with that role only from the
Got it.
start.
Got it. Got it. Amazing. Amazing. Great. So, to help us understand a little bit about, your journey into product management, right? How did you choose PM as a career? What came across? Of course, now you're doing great work at, quick commerce at one of India's best products, but how did you
Hmm.
reach there? What has been your journey like?
So initially, like when I was in college, I had my own startup, like ran it for about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that was into like hyper local e-commerce only. But
Gotcha.
unfortunately, things didn't pan out, so we had to close it during my fifth year of college in BITS Pilani. So after that, I joined like 1 year in consulting, tried to be like more close towards a customer understanding. That's why I joined a very boutique management consulting firm with like very small number of employees so that I can be like as close to as customer as possible, so as to understand what are the high level problems which customer face in their day-to-day lives, right, from the B2B lens and from their
Correct.
B2C lens which they cater to in the longer run. And then I started my like dedicated product journey from like Godera, where like transitioned from a consulting role to a product management role, and then towards Apollo, Make My Trip, and now in Swiggy. So overall, the motivation for the joining the product management has been like because it's like the center node between your design technology and your business, right? And with
Correct.
these three pillars you like solve the problems of the customer. And what empowers, like what daily motivates me is like whatever I am doing is directly impacting someone on a day-to-day
Mhm.
basis, right? Be it in Make My Trip, you book travel; be it in like Apollo 247, you like order medicines; in Swiggy, almost like once or twice a month, almost like in our generation, everybody orders food, right? Once or twice
Yeah.
a month
Correct.
from the outside,
More
right?
than
Or
that.
either we used, yeah, more than that. So, and also like sometimes we go out, use the dine out and like Instamart and every stuff. So like whatever the product which I am developing is directly being used by the customer. So that sense of achievement, like whatever I'm doing is impacting like millions of lives in India.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that is what motivates me, like, and drives me towards product management.
Nice. This is awesome. That is very awesome. Okay, so this is the good part. Is there something that you feel is not as glamorous in PM as this? Of course, this is really great in terms of, you get to work on products that, people everywhere in the world use, or India at least use. But is there something that you realize is not as glamorous, or something that you don't like as much about PM?
So in the product management, it's not about the not liking part. It's
Mm-hmm.
mainly about like sometimes it's like a blue ocean strategy if you
Hmm.
think about in the product management, right? In
Hmm.
the B2C world, you don't know exactly what customers are directly asking you. You have to understand the data, how they are behaving with your product, what your competitors are doing. So you have to go through a plethora of the data and like take some strong bets. So sometimes your bets might work, sometimes your bet might not work, right? Sometimes I have also developed some of the products which have not worked very well
Yeah.
in the, so that time it becomes very frustrating that you have invested a lot of time convincing the leadership, getting the like a bandwidth allocation from the tech, getting the funds from the business, and ultimately it's not panning out the
Yeah.
way it is, right? So it's not a sure shot guarantee which is
Uh-huh.
being associated with every product which you develop. We obviously hope that every product becomes like the
Yeah.
next
Right.
the next revenue generating stream for the company. But obviously, so that's the like little frustrating part. Not a frustrating part. Also, it's part of the job that you have to go through very small nuances, and you don't know that how the customer might behave with that product which you are developing. So it's a bet you are taking. You do a lot of A/B analysis and see that how the customers are behaving. So so that's like part of the job. But yeah, not so glamorous part which we see in the job
Correct,
descriptions and
correct. I
everything.
think, yeah, specifically for B2C, like you said, right, it's very difficult to predict because customers are rarely going to tell you anything. You have to analyze their behavior and figure out what they really want. And that's probably
Yeah.
maybe the most fun part and also the most difficult part in general. Just
Yes.
final question, before we like double click a little more inside Swiggy and your role. What is the metric that you worry or that you own or that you check or the first thing that you look at maybe every time, every day that you go or every week?
So every day when we go, like being, so when I was in Make My Trip, I was handling the tours and attractions vertical over there. So there
Okay.
we used to go and see that, okay, how many number of orders we had got. And it was a new vertical which was started. So like how many customer escalations you have got from after the sales, like, and what is the conversion of the funnel, right? Same things here in Swiggy also, like what is the overall conversion
Mhm.
from my cart side, what is the ads conversion, how much ad revenue which I'm making, how much the restaurants are making profit out of the ads which they are like investing the money, the ads, RPO, and everything. So these are the high level metrics which on a daily basis we check. And there are like alerts also. Which are set by tech and by the analytics. So if there is any
Mm.
dip, obviously we deep dive and double click into that how we want to like solve in that direction.
Awesome, awesome. That's great. I mean, in terms of, I think millions of impressions, Swiggy's checkout page might be like one of the highest in terms of the product ecosystem. So I think
Yes.
there is a lot of both pressure and also fun, I guess, because you get to own such a large chunk. Right.
Yes.
I think thank you so much for that. I will just want to
Mm.
double click a little more on the day-to-day life of a Swiggy PM. So we understood the kind of metric you're looking at, but help me understand, what does a normal week look like for you as a senior product manager at Swiggy? I mean, help me understand how much time is spent in meetings versus deep work. How is that structured? How do PMs at Swiggy essentially get work done?
So, like, mainly our work is like distributed, I would say, like in mainly three or four parts. First is
Okay.
like there is a constant analysis which is going on with the analytics team, like what next needs to be developed, what should be the next best product which I need to develop on my either in my ads vertical or in my cart page. Like for me particularly,
Mhm.
for other PMs, it might be in someone who's owning the menu page, how to simplify that. And obviously, there is a North Star metric. Like for me, cart to order is the biggest metric. So how should I improve that? That is my North Star goal, which I need to
Mm.
like take care of. Basis that, what are the interventions? How can I simplify the journey? How can I reduce the number of decision points so that the customer can like make the decision very fast over there? Right. So that how can I make the journey more seamless if there is a drop point, customers are dropping out of certain points after seeing certain things, then how should I improve that, simplify that journey? So exploring what is the next best thing I can develop. That is, you can say like the 2030 part. percent, which is like going on the back burner every time. It's like a brainstorming over lunch or over any leadership meeting discussion towards the like in 15-20 minutes, what should be the next we should be building around in that direction. So that is the one part. Then second is like the existing project, which are like already picked. Right. So developing the PRDs, developing the prototypes for that, and working with the design team for working on the designs, working with the engineering team to understand the PRD. And so there's not just single project, there are multiple projects which are running at a
Mhm.
parallel amount of
Yeah.
time, right? So those parallel projects, like every project is a different state. Someone is at design state, someone at PRD writing state, someone is at a tech execution state, and someone is at a UAT state. So depending on that, that consumes, you can say, like 50 to 60% of the time because of the execution and your understanding of those stuff. And then certain part, I would say, mainly goes into your like after the product has been launched, like how should the analysis of that, like
Hmm.
this is one part is like future me what we need to build. The middle
Correct.
one is like the execution of the product, and the third one is like what we have launched in the past, like say 1 month or 3 months, the analysis of that, right? Because
Understood.
some products might be launched in AB, some products might be launched directly without an AB. Generally, it's like almost every product is launched in AB
Mhm.
because considering the scale of Swiggy, so
Correct.
everything almost is launched in AB. We can't take a risk without an AB. So in that direction, analysis of that, that if there is the metrics which we are targeting initially is going in the right direction, what are the initial tweaks, what are the initial fast followers which we need to take out of that product. So because there's a very ruthless prioritization in Swiggy, because there's like a
Mhm.
lot of stuff going on in a very fast paced environment, right? So sometimes the before launching the product, you like cut the scope and understand, okay, this is the MVP which I will launch with the AB, see the results. If the results are directionally positive, then I'll invest more tech in the version 2 of the product, and then I
Correct.
will launch that. Right.
Hmm.
So how to prioritize the version 2 depending on the initial metrics? If I have not got the metrics in the positive direction, then how will I tweak that version 2 of the product? What are the what are the challenges which the customers are facing in the version 1, and then how can do that? So the remaining portion, I think, so goes in that.
Interesting. Yeah, I think prioritization becomes a big part of what it is, because Swiggy being a super app, I mean it is a super app. It's
Mhm,
as close to
mhm,
super app as it can be, and
mhm,
Dine Out, Instamart, the food delivery, Genie,
mhm.
I don't know, so many businesses all together. So I think help me understand, is there like a framework that's set, or is it more about leadership conviction? How does prioritization decisions get taken? Because I believe that's very important for a large product like Swiggy, which has multiple business verticals essentially running with the same app.
So mainly it's always in Swiggy, it's like always a customer backward thing, right?
Okay.
Whatever the is the dire need of the customer, and with that, how much like orders per day or like the revenue which can be generated out of that, right? Whatever is the project which is in that direction, generally that gets prioritized first. Right.
Understood.
So first priority is obviously in the customer. If something is like hampering the journey of the customer, that is like at the supreme most priority. And
Hmm.
then second one is towards the like the revenue, like if some by doing something I'll open unlock some x number of more orders per day, which we call it incremental orders per day, or like something we'll unlock more average order value if I can unlock with that. Those kind of projects are being prioritized basically.
Interesting. Interesting. That's nice. That's very interesting. And I'm sure it's something that is very critical, like you said, right? It's extremely critical. How big is the pod that you work in? You mentioned, data analysts, developers, you of course leading and owning the entire product. How big is the pod? Is there a pod structure? How is the team structured?
So there are like multiple teams. So like food has a different team.
Okay.
The the dine out has a different team. Instamart has a different product team, right? And inside food also there are like teams split into like multiple parts. Like the B2B side and the B2C side. The B2B
Yeah.
side is like towards the restaurant owning side, and the B2C side is towards your like the customer facing app which we use on a day-to-day basis. Right? And then there is a driver side also, right? So
Uh,
inside that there are like the driver side because there are a lot of challenges over there on the driver side
Correct.
of the things,
Absolutely.
because right. So these three verticals work in like coordination to provide a seamless experience across the restaurant delivery partner and the customers. However, like the product team is like split into each of these parts, and each of them have a separate engineering team and have a separate like analytics team dedicatedly assigned to these parts.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, yeah, it will be actually very, very interesting to like be there, because there are so many moving parts. I mean, for example, for a simple SaaS product, also there is so many moving parts. But here there are like three. I mean, full-blown businesses talking to each other, three full-blown products talking to each other. So do you like collaborate a lot with the PMs looking other? How does that dynamic work? Are they separate folks who are looking at this separately, and then you kind of come together to take a call on what's the best thing, or is there a framework that you guys have? How do you come to that conjunction where okay, this is how seamlessly it will work?
So generally, it's like mainly understanding that, for example, that there is a problem which, say, for example, I'm facing at the cart page, right? I'm
Hmm.
just take an example. On the cart page, I'm facing some problem. Then I will like backtrack that. Is it because of, say, for example, the delivery agent availability, or at the restaurant item availability, or the restaurant image has not been uploaded correctly, or the restaurant has there is a problem in the restaurant uploading the menu or something like that, right?
Got
So
it.
we identify that at which stage the problem is, and how can I solve that in the best fashion, right? And ultimate goal, as I mentioned, it is the customer delight overall, right? And the
Understood.
second one was towards the revenue and increasing the overall average order value and the number of orders, right? So if I'm able to like prove that, okay, this is the problem which requires a solve, this is the high level solve which I'm coming with, and it requires your support, say for example from the B2B side, restaurant partner side, or from the DE app side, if I want any support, then
Hmm.
I have a interaction with them, with their senior product managers, with their directors of the product, have a discussion with them, like these are the problems which we are facing. It can be resolved with your help over there. Then they also review it, and then obviously because they have like a deep expertise in that particular vertical of the product, they also provide with their suggestion. We come to a conclusion. Okay, this is the final output we require. We present that also to the leadership that if they are aligned in that direction, and we present that why this will increase the overall customer delight, it will increase the number of average order value or the number of orders per day, and then it gets approved, and then with the help of like the project management team, the bandwidth is being allocated.
Got it. Got it. I think, yeah, very well oiled in terms of how it goes. Help me understand one more thing about, working at Swiggy. What is that one thing that you feel kills a feature at Swiggy even before, people have started ideating or brainstorming? I mean, what's that one kind of feature or one kind of insight or direction that, never sees the light of day at Swiggy? What's that one thing that's wrong with such features?
There is no assets like in the past
Mhm.
6 months, past 6 to 8 months, I have not seen like even the most radical ideas which you can think like if no one
Mhm.
has done
Very
in the
interesting.
industry, or like no one has done even in this food industry or in the e-commerce industry or globally, right?
Mhm.
Every idea is like appreciated, like bringing on the table. Everyone is like till the top is like very open to any kind of idea. It might be like a very small idea, it might be a very radical idea, right? So it's like always
Very interesting.
appreciated at Swiggy that if you bring any idea, you just come to the table, you come with a you even it's not required that I need to prepare like a 20 page slide or something like that. Even
Hmm.
I can anytime I can like call up the till the business VP or the product VP and just have a quick call discussion that I have this idea. Do you feel this is worth it or in any direction? Because might be possible that idea have been discussed in the leadership previously also, or someone else might
Correct.
also get that idea, right? And every idea, what they believe, it's not no idea, I think so, is like right or wrong, right? It's
Hmm.
just that how you position that and is the timing of that idea is right or wrong, right? So
Exactly.
that's what the overall philosophy of the Swiggy is, that if you position the idea and it's the right time, something sometimes you also do that. Some idea which have been like launched say like 1 or 2 years back in Swiggy, at that time the AB results were not positive, but at that time the situations were very different, market was very different at that time. Now the market is, so we like redo some of the experiments. Okay, let's try that again if the market is now ready to accept that idea. So in that terms, it's like quite an open culture. There is no as such thing that okay, this idea is like not being appreciated or does not see any light in that direction. So it's not. It's a pretty open and flat culture in Sweden. So that's what
That's
I
actually
really
very
like about
interesting
it.
because I meet with a lot of PMs, and one of the things that kind of comes as an answer to this is when it doesn't have a clear pathway to revenue or ROI, it usually gets killed. But I think that's where true innovation comes in, when no idea is considered to be a bad idea. It's very
Yeah.
interesting. What's been a nice A/B experiment that you've done in the last 6 months, and come on the good side of it?
I think so. There are multiple like very small nuances in terms of the ads. Obviously, I
Okay.
cannot disclose the details of that
Yes.
because of the compliance issues. But there are multiple experiments related to ads and the cart vertical, which we have done. Very small nuances from the data sciences side, which have
Mhm.
given like tremendous results in that direction, which we have like scaled.
Yeah, even small things.
So
I think like color changes. At least I have that. That's what I've seen. Like even if you make a small copy change, if you make a small interaction change, it really does change the behavior and perception that people have. So I'm sure there will be a lot of similar experiments going on at Swiggy continuously.
yeah, so there are a lot of experiments.
Uh-huh.
Majorly on the experiments which I have worked on are mainly towards the logic aspect of the changing of the things,
Okay.
towards the data sciences of the things.
Understood.
So, like from the UI aspect, yeah, there has been some minor tweaks, but those experiments are like still going on. So that information obviously I can't disclose at this
No, no,
point
of
of time.
course. That's
Yeah,
absolutely fine.
yeah.
Right. Just okay. So we've understood, how a day-to-day life of a Swiggy PM looks like. Just wanted to double click a little more on the hiring process at Swiggy. So,
Mm.
of course, just like everywhere else, Swiggy also has multiple rounds and all of that. But what I wanted to understand was, what do you think stands out so much at Swiggy that they consistently get the best talent that's available in India to work for them? What do you think is that one differentiator in this hiring process that Swiggy has, that such high level of talent continuously keeps doing their best at Swiggy?
So I think so like their interview hiring process is like very structured, right? That
Okay.
as I mentioned that you are in the center of like the business, the business design and the tech, right? So you are the center of that. So their hiring process is also revolving around that, right? So there are like multiple rounds. One is say like the product sense, then there is a design sense, there is a data sense, and there's a tech sense. So the leaders of depending on the availability, the leaders in that particular domain generally takes your interview, right?
I see.
And they see that, okay, as per our company, what is the vision which Swiggy has in the longer run? And in particular, if we are, so I was being hired in the food vertical. So in
Hmm.
food vertical, what is the vision which they see like in the short run, like 1 or 2 years, and in the long run, 5 to 10 years? And does this person fit into that vision? Does he resonate with that vision in the
I see.
shorter and the longer run?
Interesting.
Right. And that is being evaluated from all the three aspects in the product sense that does he understand the product? Does he value the product overall? Will he be able to like understand the business in the longer run? Because some it might be possible someone is coming from a different industry also, might not be coming from a e-commerce industry or might be coming from a B2B product or something like that. But will he be able to
Correct.
understand that, right? And from the design aspect, because design is like a very critical aspect of Swiggy, right?
Correct.
Like everything goes with a very pixel perfection. After like a lot of pixel perfection, it cannot be like with almost millions and millions of users on a daily basis use the Swiggy app, right? From the restaurant side, from the customer side, and from the delivery partner side. So you cannot afford any single iota of like error in the designs. So we need to understand that how the design functions. Does he able to visualize that? Okay, a very small delta change will make impact on the lives of millions of people, right? So
I
how
see.
does the design thinking works in that direction? And from the data sense, because the millions of data points are coming right at every single stage, where you are scrolling, where you are stopping after clicking, what stage you left the funnel, right? How many restaurants you visited, right? So a lot of data points are available. Will the person be able to understand that plethora of data? Will he be able to gain insights out of that data, right?
Mm.
And obviously there are like like 1 or 2 hiring rounds with the hiring manager also to see the overall team
Great.
fitment culture, and then there is a hiring manager round with the overall company fitment culture.
Got
So
it.
so this process is like very much centered around what is the exact role of the person inside the Swiggy, and as a product manager, how someone wants to grow in the longer run in Swiggy.
Got it. Got it. At the CV shortlisting stage also, this is probably something that matters. I mean, when folks who are recruiting or looking at the CVs, when they would shortlist, they would also probably look at hints of what is the overlap in terms of what we need versus what this guy has done. Or do you think it is more done in the interview and the CVs, like a general sense of the fact that, okay, great background, great college, great experience. How does that happen? Or it's a
As
mix?
far as
Hmm.
I think so, it's kind of a mix depending on the seniority of the role and the criticality of the role in which the person is being hired. Right.
Got
So it's a mix that if there is a overlap with the previous company or experience, if someone has great, that if we can fetch that and leverage that experience. And sometimes it depends on like if we need a very fresh perspective in this role, right? And we need like a person who can bring in some like really good ideas out of the box, use out of the industry, and we need like new creative ideas over there. So in that case, like some CVs are shortlisted where it's like someone is from the different industry, but would be very easy to accommodate in the overall Swiggy ecosystem.
Nice. Got it. Got it. Interesting. What would be your advice? Let's assume that, we're optimizing for someone who is young, maybe just out of college, maybe a couple of years of experience. What is your advice to them if they want to, get into a top consumer product like Swiggy or anywhere else as a top consumer product? What do they optimize for as a product manager? What's that one thing that you feel that they need to optimize for?
I think so. What I can say confidently from the B2C product side of the
Yeah,
things.
got it.
So from the B2C side of the things, what we need to understand like very small things which are happening around us. Right.
Hmm.
So we are using like almost like 10, 20 apps almost on a daily basis, right? We use
Correct.
WhatsApp, we use like Instamart or Blinkit or whatever app we use for the quick commerce, for Amazon, we use like so multiple payment apps we use like Phone Pay or Google Pay or any other app, right? So multiple apps. So we should be like very curious about any delta changes which they are making,
Okay.
right? And should be very much aware. So, say for example, I'll take given one example, like when this large order fleet. So
Hmm.
that this is I'm talking about like almost like 2.5 or 3 years back. That was
Correct.
that time when the big tempo of Zomato was being
Hmm.
launched, right?
Correct.
And Swiggy also ventured into that direction, right? So it was going on in the pilot. It was not being like mentioned particularly in the app or something like a large fleet order will be coming. It will be coming in a tempo or something like that. I was driving on the way. I saw that okay, this is a very beautiful tempo and it is being branded with something like this. I just stopped that guy. Okay, are you in a hurry? He said, no, I'm just going around like picking up the next order, but it will take some time. So I just had a chat with him. Okay, what are the kind of orders which you are getting, right? Generally from which societies? Though I was in Gurgaon at that time. So in which societies generally you get what type of orders, in which time duration you get these kind of bulk orders and everything, right? So should be very curious in the very day-to-day aspect of the things, what is happening around you. Right. So, say for example, like when this like a lot of backlash happened in the Paytm around the Paytm bank and everything, there were
Correct.
a lot
Correct.
of cases going on, and the vendors, like the shopkeepers, were also facing a lot of problems at that time. Now, I believe so the majority of them has been solved, but
Yeah.
at that particular point of time, shopkeepers. So, whenever I was going to towards shopping in my local grocery store nearby, I just had a quick chat with him, like, okay, what are the problems? Are you using the Paytm? And was when I made the payment, it says, okay, Paytm karo, that sound which comes on the sound box, right? So I
Okay.
just had a chat with him. Okay, do you use Paytm Bank? What are the problems? Despite the fact I was not working with Paytm, I was not involved with the payments gateway of the Make My Trip and everything at that point of time. But still, I was curious. Okay, how your problem you are facing, because you never know what problem the other industry or other domain might be facing, which could be like replicated in your domain also, right?
Got it.
And
Hmm.
and when you want to like grow in the product management career at the top, that time you should be very much aware that how the overall ecosystem of the product works, right? So like even if I was not handling payments, I was handling the tours and attractions vertical at that point of time, but still I was little bit aware. Okay, in the payments industry this is going on, these are the problems and challenges which the payment industry is facing right now, right? Or so for example, that food delivery ecosystem are facing right now, large fleet orders are being required or something
Hmm.
like that, right? So after that I came to Swiggy. Now I can deeply understand like that 2 year 3 year back problem which was I saw on the road randomly a big tempo was going on. I now understand, okay, that why at that point of time that decision was being taken, right?
Correct.
So should
Hmm.
be very curious around whatever the small things in the digital world you are facing, and how what was the reason or what was the rationale behind doing that. So if you are able to track that, then that will be very easy. You will be very easy to like crack the interviews as well as like you will it will show a bigger perspective
Got it.
in that direction.
Hmm.
Right.
Interesting.
So I'll just give you one more example. So like that happened one day I was went to a movie like that happened like 3 4 years back. I was giving one interview in that. someone, not Swiggy interview, some else, I don't remember the name of the company, but they were asking, okay, Swiggy wants to expand its business or something like that. So how they want to do that in the like malls or shopping malls or something like that. There was
Mm.
question was asked. And 2 days before, I just went in the PVR, and the PVR started at that time. Okay, you scan the QR code on the app, and it will get delivered onto your phone. At that time, the PVR just started. So I go, okay, why not just like scan that idea on the Swiggy or Zomato app, and why not get it delivered with the Swiggy portal, because it knows my preferences, veg or non-veg preferences. Do I like nachos, or what kind of food
Interesting.
I do like, right?
Mm.
So I pitched that idea, and the interviewer was like very happy with that. Okay, that's the idea, and I told him that I got this idea 2 days before watching the movie, right? I saw that PVR is doing that. Why not Swiggy and Zomato can venture into that direction? So
Got it.
if you like
Mm.
small ideas, if you like see around in the real world, and if you can like resonate to that why it's being done, then it becomes very easy in the longer run, the product management.
It's actually very interesting. I mean, staying curious and finding these smaller tips. Right. Now, this is the final topic before we kind of close. How is Swiggy using AI across its products? I mean, it's such a big buzzword right now. I'm sure Swiggy's everyone trying their best to incorporate LLMs in the product. What's a Swiggy product philosophy on AI right now in their experience or maybe in internal efficiency?
So, in terms of like Swiggy is very bullish in terms of using the AI, right? From the
Mhm.
customer lens, if you see like the Dine Out has now introduced like AI, you can ask if about the restaurant, anything over there, like
Yeah.
is it pet friendly restaurant, is the parking available over there, right? Basis the past reviews which people have written, or on the Google reviews which people have written, right? So, in terms of Instamart, also like in the food, also we are doing like a lot of integration with the AI. There is a Swiggy Bites product which has like recently
Yeah.
launched in the food vertical. So from the customer lens, obviously there is like very bullish towards using the AI in our day-to-day terms. Obviously, it's like a kind of a mandate for us, like using like developing the prototypes using the AI, the PRDs and everything, like the speed of writing the PRDs, and like using the internal past historical data also, right, has
Okay.
also very improved with that, right?
Hmm.
So we have like partnered with multiple AI bots also, and it's like some of the people have also like assigned the agents also in their Slack channels or in multiple other places in which we communicate with each other, like to help us with okay, like this is the overall summary of the mailer which is going on in that direction. Then there is a historical mailer which came like after like reaching out with like 20 people, and then it came to me, okay, what is the overall summary, right? And how, what should be the actionable insight, who should be the I should be reaching out to. So in that overall fashion, in terms of the day-to-day functioning and in terms of the customer aspect, like Swiggy is being very bullish in that direction.
Nice. That's actually very interesting. I think everyone is, of course, tools is one thing, but the deep application of that, I mean, like you said, chatbot, etc., is amazing. Right. Finally, Arpit, just a couple of lines on career advice that you would want to give, younger people who are typically watching this, who are, aspiring to be PMs at, top companies, top Indian companies like Swiggy, etc. I know you
Mhm.
said stay curious, and that's actually very actionable. But what would you like to drop in as a parting message to them, as something that they could practice or do every day and be in your shoes soon?
I think so. Like few of the things, as I mentioned, first point mentioned, like be curious in that direction, whatever is happening around you. If you are particularly like preparing from the interview standpoint, then definitely solve as much case studies as possible, like the real life case
Mhm.
studies which is going on, right? Which are like you don't need to like do very historical kind of a problems. Generally, we people used to do like how many table tennis balls I can fit in
Yeah.
a Boeing 747. Those
Yeah.
kind of problems
That
no one
is
asks right
dead
now.
now. Yeah. Yeah.
That is dead now, right? People ask, okay, what's towards the future, right? So what can be developed in the future, right? And if you are using like multiple, you are using, say for example, Phone Pay or Google Pay, what ideas over there can be replicated in
Mm.
Swiggy or in Make My Trip or any other e-commerce company, right? Because there is a lot of cross pollination among the ideas. There are like multiple international apps also which we generally use on a daily basis, right? So how we can like leverage and cross pollinate the ideas from one industry to another, right?
Got it.
That is the one thing which we should be like very curious about in that direction, and how we can like that they can practice also during the interviews, right, while preparing for the interviews. And also the product manager should be like very good with the guesstimates, I think so.
Uh,
right? That is the one thing which generally, because on the fingertips you have to develop like, okay, this is the product, this is the high level projection which it can generate, this is the X number of revenues or the incremental number of orders, right? This is the funnel and everything. You have to be like on the tips with the data. So I think so that is the guesstimate part should be like very, very strong. With that, I think so that comes with overall practice also. Like
Correct.
the more you practice, the more you go in that direction also. And yeah, I think so. These are the mainly two or three things, and being curious will obviously open multiple dimensions in that direction. So should not be a big problem.
Correct. I mean, finding problems and solving them is, I mean, it's going to take any PM for a long way.
Yes, and
Right.
also like
Yes.
one thing like this product management role sometimes, as I mentioned, like out of the 10 products, only like three or four products sometimes become successful. Sometimes it
Correct.
happens, okay, out of the 10 products, eight or nine are successful. Sometimes it happens like, okay, out of 10, three or four are being successful. So don't
Correct.
get disheartened by that. If out of 10, three or four are successful, they will cover up your entire portfolio of which you are developing. In the longer
Correct.
run, they will cover up in the longer direction. So it's like it's a learning for you. Like it's not a failure. It's a learning for you. You might use that learning in the longer direction.
Perfect. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Arpit, for doing this. Really, really enjoyed this and very insightful. Got to learn a lot about how Swiggy works and everything. So thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. And I really hope to see you again. We'll talk about maybe something else. Today we talked about Swiggy. Maybe next time we can maybe talk about college and we can talk about Bits Pilani and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, sure.